Last season, local sci-fi film director Richard de Carvalho joined us to talk about independent sci-fi production in a sector increasingly dominated by the streaming giants. This week, he's back to talk about the making of his indie film, A Blaster in the Right Hands, joined by cast members Ben Hamilton and Kirsty McKenzie. Thanks for joining us. So, for those who haven't seen the film, can you tell us a little bit about A Blaster in the Right Hands?
So Blaster in the Right Hands revolves around two bounty hunters, a Pentoran and a Twi'lek, that come across precious cargo from a crashed Imperial shuttle. As they cross paths, they then soon discover that they're not the only hired gun around. So it's very much a spaghetti western, so a space western that predates Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. And it was just something that I really always wanted to do. It was something that a story I always wanted to tell. Being a massive Star Wars fan, I love the aspect of it being a space western. And so when I, with my, friend and longtime collaborator Eric Magnuson, when we got together and we started spitballing an idea to do our own little, piece of, Star Wars. We then really went into it thinking, making a little short story, but making it something that we felt could be canon. And we created two original characters, which is Jakar, played by Ben Hamilton, and Sirik, played by Kirsty McKenzie. And then the third player that comes into it is my favorite Star Wars character, which was Boba Fett. And so we really were doing our own little good, the bad, and the ugly with this short fan film.
So what motivated you to work on and make the Star Wars film?
I think it's always that kind of need that you have as a filmmaker or just as, a creative in general. You always have that one kind of story or creative piece you just want to kind of get out there and do. And for me, coming up with this kind of, piece of fan fiction, it sort of, happened when, you're in high school, when you're, quite young, and you got like, your imagination takes over. And so I just kind of really got enamored with the idea of doing, a space western with Boba Fett. But over the years, every time I kind of pitched that story to friends or my peers, they absolutely loved it. I would get the question of why do a fan film? Do you know how hard it is? And other people would go, yeah, good luck. And obviously we flash forward a few years, and we've now got, Disney doing a space western, the Mandalorian. So it was obviously something that was there, and that I felt the need to just, as a fan first and foremost, to see. Now as a filmmaker, it was just something that I just wanted to really apply myself. I mean, I think any creative would absolutely, especially as a fan of the genre, whether it's science fiction or even with Star Wars, you dream about kind of being on set and working on something like this.
Now, being a Star Wars fan film, obviously there's a lot of existing IP and ideas there. How does that work with, when you're creating a film? Are there any limitations that you need to keep in mind?
The amazing thing about doing something like a Star Wars fan film is that Lucasfilm is very supportive. And it all starts with George Lucas. George Lucas was very much an indie filmmaker. A lot of people forget about that. And a lot of people actually forget that the original Star Wars, A New Hope, 1977, that was an independent film, a very expensive independent film. But it was an indie nevertheless. So he's always been this kind of pioneer and championing, independent filmmakers. So I think that was, and that's why I think with something like Star Wars, it inspires a lot of people in this industry. A lot of filmmakers, such as myself, always cite Star Wars as being the one kind of film that sort of inspired them. But making a fan film does come with limitations. it is intellectual property, and especially in this day and age, it's owned by Disney. So you can't go into making a fan film expecting a profit. It just doesn't work. The reason why we did a fan film is passion. We're passionate. We're passionate fans. We love to just be in that world. The way that I pitched to everyone, including Kirsty and Ben, is that this is George Lucas's sandbox, and we're just playing over in a corner there. And we're just having kind of fun, but we're also stretching ourselves creatively, with our own craft. We're looking at what we can do within the genre. So there's two aspects about it. We're showing audiences, and especially our local industry, what indie filmmakers can do. But at the same time, we're scratching that itch of just making our own Star Wars, because we would love the opportunity to at some point in our career to work on one of these kinds of films.
I want to ask you guys, as the leads of the movie, you both played bounty hunters. How did you get involved with the project? What made you sign up?
I'd worked with Richard previously on other projects before as well, and I'd floated at a time in the past that I always wanted to do a Western. There's something in that I really wanted to do, and I'd be keen to work with Richard on that, having worked with him before. Then he came to me with this idea saying, well, you said you wanted to do a Western. Well, I do have a Western idea that might be of interest to yourself. I was like, yeah, I'm listening, because I want to do a Western. So it's a Star Wars fan film, at which point I was like, okay, it's not quite what I had envisioned. However, then he pitched the idea to me and the story behind it and what was going into this particular story. I thought, you know what, this sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. So what would I be playing? A cool sort of Han Solo, human, whatever, bounty hunter type? Well, no, you'd be a Twi'lek or Twi'lek. I was like, okay, I have to do some research on that. But yeah, that's he approached me of my love for Westerns, and that's how I got involved.
We didn't know each other really before this, but we can't figure out who did what, but we ended up as friends on Facebook. So we have a debate and nobody knows how it happened, but we ended up as friends. And then Richard contacted me and, told me about the idea, and I'd grown up with Star Wars. So sort of that was my, like growing up with that as your background. As a kid, you're like, oh no, it's super nerdy. And you're like, yeah, no, we're cool, hey? Yeah, Richard and I spoke about it, and I was like, that sounds like the coolest thing ever, to be doing martial arts. And I knew Ben because Ben and I had been in other projects together.
So it was a real shot in the dark with Kirsty going, just to kind of ask, and I was prepared for her to just completely shut it down, and go, no, you're weird, never contact me again.
I actually think I asked Ben about you. Yeah. I remember, because it was going sort of like, you never know who to trust in the world, and I reached out to Ben, and he had nothing but beautiful things to say about you.
So, this film required a lot of prosthetics and makeup, and a lot of people, when they join projects like this, they talk about that moment when they first see themselves in full outfit. What was that like for you when you first saw yourself in your full costume?
I think it completely transforms. You just feel like you're completely different. You're not you. I mean, everything about me was blue, and I couldn't see out of one eye, and I had something cover on one eye and contact lenses in the other eye, and suddenly you're just embodying a different character, which is the most surreal, brilliant experience that you've ever got the opportunity, because it's like a different skin that you just get to put on, and suddenly you're not who you were, but you're now something else. So there's that.
I have to agree, absolutely. Being in the full prosthetics, in the full the costume as well, being that character, it gave you such a separation from yourself generally as well, that it's just made it a lot easier to just embody the world that you're in as well and just perform it. So much so that I had post-filming blues taking off the liqueur. I was like, can I just be Jakar for a while? Can we just do some sort of, cosplay shit or something? No, but I loved it. It just.
That's awesome. And a question for everybody, and might be different based on your role in the movie, but what was your favorite scene to film?
It's a hard one to answer. I love the standoff with Boba. However, I do also love every interaction with Sirik, that sort of the back and forth that we have over the cargo. Phenomenal. I just loved it. That little jousting session, I guess. But then also just Jakar's entry into the world. I guess it's like taking down the stormtroopers. I mean, he has a lot of cool moments. Let's put it that way. He did this spinning shooting thing better than they did in Boba Fett. I just have to say, the whole thing. I just love the whole thing. He's gunning down troopers that are on the floor injured. He's walking off, looking cool, into the sun, whatever. Or the sun behind him. He's gunning other troopers. He's fighting her, taking on Boba.
I would agree in everything about that. I think some of the more challenging things for me were possibly the ones where it was the temperature was dropping and I was like standing on the hill. I'll never forget how cold I was out there. And I was just like, it was freezing cold. And I know that it's like you go, I should be strong and I can do these things. And then you get out there and you're like, I'm frozen. And that's all you can think about. But in terms of favorites, I think definitely stalking around the cargo. And that was a combination of being able to play opposite Jakar and Ben. And then Richard and he was on the other end of the camera, so he played opposite me and he stalked as well. And it was the most wonderful thing to have the director acting opposite you.
That moment where you're antagonizing, Jakar on the other side of the cargo, that was a lot of fun for us to sort of do. And that was like, I think when I called cut, I was just so giddy. I was so excited because I knew I had the perfect take. And it's in the film. She's just so good. And just pacing, and it was very much, I think it was the kind of direction of just being like this kind of, almost this sadistic cat, and just you're prowling, you're just loving it because you've got the upper hand.
Now, you guys did a bit of a press tour last year and you went to Supernova Sydney and Melbourne. You had the panels and the booths as well. So you met some fans in real life. So what was that like?
Humbling for me. In terms of getting involved in the project, and obviously there's the joy of the filming process and then seeing it come to life. And when we've had the first screening, watching on screen, like amazing. It's like, oh great, this is great fun to do. But then seeing the reaction of those who have seen it and enjoyed it meant so much to me personally, and I think for everybody else as well. Especially when you've got the younger fans, you can see that person or that child could then go away and think, this is possible. I can do this. It's not over there. It's not in America. This is homegrown. This is tangible. I can possibly do this. And just see that energy and that sort of inspiration in them was everything. And I saw that.
That's one of the things, you're so close to it. You're so close to it, and you're proud of your work. And there's always an element that you are your own worst critic. So you always kind of look at it and go, I could have done this better. Could have done that better. But with everything that we've done and we've accomplished, I'm extremely proud, but nothing really matches when you actually see their reactions. Yeah, like Sydney, it's the most nerve-wracking experience, but you've got to do it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, guys. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.